Got a Photoshop question? Brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, it's Ask Dave.
Norman Freeland asked an interesting question saying, is there a way to do multiple direction blur? He's talking about a photograph of a waterfall and trying to make the water blur in different directions. Well, this is the only photo I could find that was remotely close to what we're talking about, so I'm going to use this one. It may not be exactly what we had in mind, but you can kind of see this water's going a little bit angled this way, and this is straight down, this is angled a bit more. So this might be an example of the kind of thing we could do. So the first thing I would suggest doing is convert to a smart object so that we have smart filters. And let's do a motion blur. And first of all, let's kind of take a guess at this angle right here. And I'm saying take a guess because it's hard to tell right now because everything's so blurry. So the advantage, of course, of smart filters is I can click OK. Then I'm going to take the mask for the smart filter and fill it with black by inverting it, Command or Control I, so it's completely hidden. Now I'll go back to my paintbrush and I'm just going to paint with white over this area to reveal the filter. Now I deliberately went a little bit overboard. I really wasn't sure what number to put in, so I made sure I had a high enough number that I can see it. So now I can do a couple things. First of all, I can play with the angle a bit, maybe lower the distance a little bit. But the other thing is to get this nice silky kind of finish on the water itself would be to double click on this blending options and kind of lower the opacity just a little bit. So we're kind of deliberately blurring a bit too much and then lowering the opacity to get this nice kind of soft look. Now, the one problem we have with smart filters is though I could add another smart filter to the same smart object, I can only have one mask. So the problem would be if I went to mask over here, I'd be showing both filters. So there's a couple of options. Probably the simplest one, it's going to add a little bit to your file size initially, but that's okay because we're doing this just sort of as an ongoing measure to kind of get the effect we want, would be to duplicate the smart object, and I'm going to fill the layer mask with black again. And now let's say we want this water here that's going on a slightly different angle. So I'm going to just paint on there, and I'm not being terribly accurate right now. I'm just trying to show you the idea. So like that, but it's definitely not the right angle. So I'm going to double click, and now I can just kind of adjust it so that it follows a better angle. In this case, I might even increase the distance a bit. Now it's a little tough when you're working on this because you're looking at a preview for everything, but you really want to look over just the part that you've already masked. So now, of course, I could go over a slightly smaller brush perhaps and get this other water that's on almost the same angle, and maybe this stuff over here as well. Now I'm doing it really quickly and poorly, as I often do during my demonstrations, just to show you the idea. I would typically zoom in more closely and make sure everything looks the way you want. And of course, because they are completely separate, I could adjust this motion blur separately than the other one if I felt so inclined. So let's take a look at the original look without any blur on anything, and then with the two different directions of blur. So that's one way to do it. The other way would be kind of nest smart objects inside of each other, but frankly for a project like this that would just get probably more complicated than it needs to be. So and by the way, I did not, but if this was originally a Camera Raw smart object, even at this late stage, if I suddenly noticed that I wanted to tweak the results because I made a copy, I could double click on this if it was a Camera Raw smart object to get back to Camera Raw, and it would adjust both settings at once. And that's just one of many reasons why smart filters and smart objects just give us so many editing options. Ask Dave is brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. If you haven't already joined, make sure you check out photoshopuser.com for all the details. It's a great resource for Photoshop, training, tutorials, the magazine, discounts. And speaking of discounts, one of the discounts is available for my workshops, the Dave Cross Workshops here in Tampa, Florida. For more information about my workshops, you can go to davecrossworkshops.com. I'm Dave Cross. Thanks for watching.